All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope your AI sessions were energizing. I know at my session, at my table, we were having a lot of really great discussions, and it's funny how that time just sort of gets zipped up really quickly, and you move on to the next table. So, really excited to sort of continue those conversations with everybody over lunch today, and then later this afternoon at the Alamo. So welcome back from your break. I hope it was nice and refreshing. You got to grab some caffeine and come back ready. So we're getting ready now to kick off a session I've been really excited about this whole time. You've probably heard me walking around talking about this panel. And I'm really excited to have some really smart people here on the stage just sharing information. So this session is the Better Together session. It's the power of partnership between procurement and accounts payable. What we wanted to do is bring together teams where we've seen leaders in both accounts payable and procurement working together to deliver outcomes on their campus and do some really impressive things. So we brought two different teams up here today to just sort of share some of those experiences of how those teams have worked together on their campuses. So why don't we just go down and have everybody introduce themselves. James, you want to go first?
My name is James Ferguson. I'm Director of Procurement at Seton Hall University.
Hi everybody, it's good to be up here. My name is Bobby Segovia. I also work at Seton Hall University and Director of AP. I've been there just shy of a year in higher ed, but I've previously done a majority of my accounts payable experience as a public servant for the state of Texas. So good to be back here.
Good morning. My name is Corey Lauder. I'm Director of Procurement for AT Still University. I've been in that position for about 19 years, I believe.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Hettinger. I am the Assistant Controller of Accounting Services for AT Still University. I've been with the university for 13 years, and yeah.
Great. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our first question. So I think we'll focus on James and Steph for this one. Maybe we can just kick things off with some context. How are your procurement and accounts payable teams structured today? And what does a typical day really involve? What are the things that your team is doing? What does a typical day look like? And feel free to highlight anything that maybe would be a surprise that your teams do.
So on the procurement side, we have 3 buyers, right, that are on our procurement team. Then myself oversee them, and then we just brought in a contracts management position to bring it into procurement. So we have 1 contracts manager or assistant director of contracts management on my team. So we have a total of 5 in procurement, and then accounts payable. They have 3 processors, right? Or 2 processors, 1 manager, and Bobby. So that's basically how the team's set up, right, within the university. Day to day, it's probably, put out fires in the morning,
Yep.
then kind of catch your breath and put out fires in the afternoon. But, in seriousness, it's a lot of split duties, right? We do. From the procurement side, it's we're processing requisitions, right, every day. But then we're also working with the community, doing outreach, answering emails, right, teaching, training along the way. And then it's just a lot of work. It's just a lot of different avenues that we're working on, trying to really better that involvement with the community and trying to process it the best way we can to get the final product to accounts payable. And it's not always perfect, but we do our best trying to do that. So.
Okay, for AT Still University, we are very decentralized, and so we have our home campus, which is based in Kirksville, Missouri, and then we have campus locations we have a site location in St. Louis, Missouri, a campus location in Mesa, Arizona, and one in California. San Luis Obispo is going to be our new spot. So we have many states that we're working in, and we do not have AP or procurement on each one of those sites. We're just all located at what we call corporate, which is going to be in Missouri. And so for our side, AP, I am over accounts payable, and then I have a general accountant that works with our two accounts payable specialists. And she more so sees the approval of the daily batches that are occurring. And so that is more AP's daily routine, is to go in, download the transaction run from the previous day, balance it against our ERP system, make sure everything that approved went through and went into our batch and that we match. So that's their daily process. AP also is the side that sets up vendors, and while they are working within Unimarket, we do have our general accountant reviews all of the vendor setup, so we have a, kind of a verification. There's not somebody that is creating vendors, but then also, invoicing. And so for us, we have our retrofits and our standard. It's split about 50-50. And because we have so many check requests that are coming through for clinical rotations and whatnot, those are submitted as retrofits. They have a check request. These people need to be paid. And so for us, AP focuses on approving the retrofits, and then procurement, which is Corey as the director, and then he has an assistant director, and then two that are approving as well within the chain. And so their team does all the if it's submitted as a standard, their team's reviewing that, but then they also invoice that. So because they have more of a knowledge of working with the sites, with the departments to make sure the goods have been received, because on our Kirksville campus, they are also over the mail room where they then receive and mark those. But on our other campuses, since we don't have procurement, the departments themselves are receiving. And so we have decided that it's more beneficial for them to do the invoicing for their requisitions, because they know what's back ordered, those vendors they're working with. We found that if AP was trying to review that and compare it against, the standard requisition, that we were going back to them to ask more questions. And so it just made sense for them to do that. And so Corey's team, they're doing the requisitions, daily as they come in. They are finalizing, placing orders, and our AP side is more so accounts payable. They reach out to us if they have questions about whether something was paid. We're also reviewing statements monthly, and then we work with procurement on those, because many times you're getting a statement because they are procured items. So following up with them, hey, has this been received? Do we have the invoice and whatnot? So we kind of work together in that way.
Great, thanks. So let's move over to Corey now, and then Bobby, you're not off the hook. I'll come to you next. So Corey, one thing that's often invisible from the outside is how two teams can stay aligned behind the scenes, right? So can you give us a window into how communications and coordination between your teams work? What impact has knowledge sharing had on the organization? How are you communicating?
Well, we use every avenue of communication that's available to us. So, of course, we use IM. So we usually have a group chat going that gets started. Actually, it's still going. I think we started it like 4 years ago, and it's still going on. We just add people and take people away from it. So that's just a quick response way. Say somebody will pop out and say, hey, I got a question about this. We go out and look at this requisition. Email, of course, we'll go back and forth, especially since, invoices, that kind of stuff will come in. We have to pass those back and forth, ask questions about it. The old thing called a phone. Sometimes we still get up the phone, call somebody and talk to them. We've got some newer things coming from our IT group. We're switching our IP phones to a different client that will now allow us, actually, if you're on the phone with somebody, to say, hey, I need you to look at something, and you can just quickly flip from a phone call to a video call and do a screen share, and you can then look at documents and have that collaborative look at what's going on so that you keep that communication going without saying, well, I'll call you back in a little bit. I've got this other, as James said, this other fire. I need to go put it out. But if you're on that right away and you can flip at it and it takes another few minutes, get it resolved and move on, and then that fire's out and you can move on to the next one.
All right, hello?
Oh, there you go.
All right, so similar to Corey, we do have a team chat. It's a group chat. So like James was saying earlier, our teams are pretty close. We're in the same building, the same room. It's only procurement and AP, and it's a very small room. They share cubicle walls. Like we hear chatter back and forth. So when I got there, I think there was a lot of in-person communication, which I'm sure our CFO Ed loved, that water cooler conversations. So there's a lot of interaction, like physically in person. And I'm a millennial. I'm an introvert. I'd rather not have too much physical interaction. I need to recharge. I'm sorry. So it's good to have those physical conversations. A lot of times, we'll set up meetings or whatever if there's a super complex problem. But I did want to kind of like taper it down a little bit and just be mindful of other people's space. So that team chat, the group chat is very helpful, especially we use it for like rush request items that come through where obviously somebody planned accordingly and they need to check last minute and they didn't submit the rec yet and the vendor's not even in the system. So for those urgent, requests, we do use the team chat just to kind of expedite the process. Hey, this person's going to be submitting the rec today. We need this check cut today. As soon as it's submitted, let us know when it's approved, and then my team will key it in. Just very quick, expedited communication between both teams. We also have a SharePoint collaboration site that I built out for us. It's a list library, and what happens is you go in. This is for routine requests, so not those rushes. So everyday normal routine requests we'll do, like if there's a vendor change, the new vendor setup. I know sometimes the remit address just needs to be updated in the systems. Our procurement team does vendor management for Seton Hall. So we'll create a new item in this list library that has an alert system that goes to the procurement team. They'll get that and they can just action it routinely throughout the week, whenever they get to it. They're pretty fast, like maybe like a day, 2 days turnaround on those things. Just to allow breathing room, not the physical interaction, not the team chatter going off like crazy with IM alerts, just part of their daily routine activities. And I think like downstream, like the impact, right, on like end users and the operations, like obviously the vendor management being very routine, like our operations, I think it's efficient. It's been an efficient process for what we have to make those updates. And it's trackable, right? I could report KPIs on that thing. I could just extract it, download it. They did this many changes, like to report how many things are really coming about between both teams.
I love that SharePoint idea. Like, just it gives you an actionable list, and I can deal with it whenever when we can, and it because with chats, it seems like there's so many people kind of talking. The initial question just gets up to the top, but having something that's like a bulleted item that we know we need to get to. So I really want to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes like IM is great, but then you overuse it, and it's like now it's just inefficient. It's just not reliable anymore. It's just I don't even want to look at that thing. I don't want to open it up. It's got 30 alerts on that thing. I don't want to look at it.
Or you have me that's like, I love to send GIFs.
Yeah.
I'm
a
then it's
giver.
just sitting there, and it's like, so I'm the culprit there.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely helps with our operations. It keeps us all sane with enough breathing room. And then for end user support, I mean, obviously they're seeing that impact because their payments are getting made timely. It's going to the right address. That check's not getting lost now because we got the correct address updated in the system. And that even helps because we have banners, so it feeds to our banner system, and then eventually we feed it over to Finexio for our payment. So the vendor sync, just operations-wise, we need that coordination with procurement team, and I think it definitely it helps. And the end users, obviously, they see that, and I think just if we have complicated questions or unique situations come up, we do set up, one-time meetings, or as things come up throughout the week, I kind of make a little agenda item, and then I'll meet with James and Michelle in procurement and just kind of like say, hey, like I want to get together on like these few topics that kind of like brought about the week or the past 2 weeks. So we just kind of ad hoc set those up. But yeah, and I think our end users really appreciate that because we stay aligned, as our CFO likes to, you know, he really likes us to be aligned. We need to be on the same page. So I think it helps with that alignment for sure.
Yeah, and it shows on your campus, right? You know, you've got happier end users, more efficient processes, so it's great.
Well, and you kind of mentioned the whole being aligned because it's so important for procurement and finance to be aligned. I think yesterday she touched on it, the CIO touched on it, where she said, you know, sometimes you feel like you're parents and children, you know, they come to Corey and they ask a question. They don't like that. So then they come to me and little do they know I'm sitting there in my chat going, I've got somebody asking about this. And he's going, I already told him no. And I'm like, good, that's where I was going. And so you can, you know, just having that communication, like he knows enough about what we do. So if he gets a general question, he can answer it, but he also, you know, knows when to tag us in and be like, you know, that's their side, you know, you need to ask them. But it's so important for us to be on the same page because, you know, you don't want them communicating it differently than what, you know, AP says, you know, fiscal year end. I'm sorry, you might have ordered that on June 30th, but did you have it in your hands that day? No, you didn't. Okay, next fiscal year, you know, and we're saying that and his team is backing it up. So just having each other's backs there.
Yeah, great. All right, so let's move on to our next question. So Steph, this one's for you. So let's get into a concrete example of cross-functional collaboration at its best. So I know that you two recently worked on a project together. You were using the invoice uploads project. So you and Corey worked on this together. Can you just walk us through sort of how that came about? What was the process like? What was the problem you were trying to solve? And Corey, of course, feel free to jump in if you have anything to add.
Yeah, so Corey is pretty much our administrator for Unimarket. He sets up all the approval tracks. You know, he's more on the back end of, you know, knowing all the capabilities of it. And I'm over here going, okay, can we do this? And he'll be like, yes, no. Well, I'm curious by nature, and I was on the invoice side, and I saw this lovely invoice import button, and I'm like, what exactly is that about? And he goes, well, if you have blanket POs, you can import invoices. And we have recently been struggling so much, and I'm sure many of you are experiencing this with utility payments and the mail system, and then not getting where they need to be on time. Then you're having late fees, or they're incorrectly applying payments, and you're having to follow back up. And facilities is saying, why does this have a past due balance? I entered that. Yeah, you did. We sent the check, but they must not have gotten it in time. And so whenever I saw that invoice import, I just went, oh my gosh, can we use that for our Ameren utility invoices? So we have 66 monthly Ameren invoices. And the lovely thing about utility companies is it's not like you can get a master bill, because why would that just make sense?
Yeah.
So they were having where, you know, facilities would get those invoice. Then our facilities admin was taking the day to separate those invoices, enter them into Unimarket, then their supervisor was having to approve it, then it comes to us, and, you know, then we have to key punch those, and you've got a list of 20 on a requisition, and, you know, we all make mistakes. We make key punch errors. And we were finding we were making so many calls trying to get items resolved with our utility companies that it was like, ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh, why are we spending the time manually entering these whenever they have to go through approval? They're utility bills. They have to be paid. You know, and so I went then to facilities and I said, hey, can I estimate how much it's going to be for the remainder of the fiscal year? Set up a blanket PO. You guys approve that on the front end. We now scan the invoices in. And I originally started where, okay, I can take a template and I can import those in. Well, why don't I just look at the invoices? We'll put it on the different line items and, you know, we'll do it that way. Well, then I made a mistake the very first time I did it. Two utility bills were very, very similar, and I then had to work through that. And I go, okay, this is supposed to make it better, and I made a mistake. So then I went, what can AI help us with? So I'm like, it's a utility bill, it's addresses, account numbers, and amounts. So I put it into Gemini, and I said, can you take this PDF document, take all the information, I need these key pieces, account number, invoice date, due date, amount, past due, I'm sorry, not past due, but previous amount and previous payment applied. And so I took that, it drops it, I've got a prompt now that's saved. I want to look into the Gemini gems, that's my next thing. But then I took it and I put that into a big template that has all of our 66 account numbers and then all of the blanket POs that are associated with it. I drop it, it puts it into where it needs to be, sets it up into the appropriate template for uploading it into Unimarket. We then upload it, we go through and we click approve on all of them. But facilities, I went back and I asked our facilities admin how much time she was spending on that. And she said it would, between those 66 invoices, it could be almost 2 days worth of work. And I took it, now I can process all those invoices less than 30 minutes by just scanning it in and having AI do the work. And Corey's wife is our facilities admin.
I have to throw in the caveat that it's made my home life a little better because the admin is my wife, so it's decreased her workload, which of course makes everything better.
Yes. So we've really started to take that and go, oh my gosh, how many other examples can this be applied? Our enterprise bills that all go to Travel Advance, we get them, and again, we are 10 keying all the amounts, and I'm verifying that, what's being imported matches the amount that we're expecting to pay. But we're now doing it for our enterprise invoices. I want to do it with our gas bills. I want to do it with all the rest of the utilities. Because, again, and then the approver was just like, oh my gosh, now I can look at it at the end of the month. We're not having to, hey, this needs to be paid. We only have 3 weeks to turn around. We're not nudging them to approve it, and everybody's much happier for it. So I think that was it was a huge win on our side. And it was just working together to know what it could do, and it was great.
And I think that comes, some of that I learned, yesterday through the Gallup strength thing, that just one of the character things that are part of me is I'm an influencer, I guess. Not a TikTok influencer, I'll tell you that, but I'm an influencer. So I like that process of being able to influence, to maximize a process and to build on it. So a lot of times people will come to me with those type questions, and sometimes I have a solution, sometimes I don't. In this particular case, I had a great solution. So it wasn't up to me to implement it. I just had to put it out there.
Great. What a great example of you two working together. So thank you for sharing that. So let's move on to, I guess this next question is about training and engagement on your campus. So Bobby and James, I'm going to focus on something that you had told me about here. So within training on campus, I think we all know the how is just as important as sort of the what, right? How are you engaging people on your campus? So we know you've done a lot of work here. Can you share sort of what you've done to engage end users on your campus, and sort of how working together collaboratively has influenced that process?
So during the initial implementation, right, we really went out and we hammered the community. We really did. We were doing not roadshows, but we were doing trainings constantly. Every different department. We did a university-wide rollout, right, at one time. So it was a lot. We had to get everybody on board. They all had to basically understand how the system was working, right? So that consisted of 5 days a week going out to the community and presenting, right? Which is was a lot. And just behind the scenes, Bobby wasn't there at that time, so yeah. So it was myself and another colleague of mine going around and doing these trainings, and it was great because we would be able to show the system and bring it right up to the point of like invoicing, right? That was where we kind of like, it kind of was like, oh yeah, now there's a three-way match, and boom, everything gets paid, and everyone's like, oh, cool, three-way match? What? Huh? What's going on? And then we just like walk, out. So there was like a missing component. That's my point with this. There was a missing component that not until Bobby came on board were we able to really now tag team the community and say, here's the procurement part of it. This is what we're doing, and this is the processes that we can do to make your procedure work, right? That was the first half of it, and then it was like on the second half, it's how is actually getting paid, right, and what's going to happen there. And I think is extremely important, like for when Bobby came on board for both of us. We were doing that initial training. We went live, and then it didn't stop there, right? We continued after that. We were doing road shows. We were doing, just like not meet and greets, but just we would do individual meetings with different groups, different, even just one-on-ones with some of the community, and we opened ourselves up to that. Mm-hmm. But the benefit is like there's strength in numbers, and like being one person in front of a community is tough too. But when you start to add like Bobby, and you have that knowledge base, and you have multiple people, even only if you have two people who are really speaking to the knowledge base of like procurement and accounts payable, that makes a big difference because you're always fielding questions, right? And when there might be some little tweak in accounts payable that you're not 100% sure of, Bobby would jump in and be like, okay, this is how we take it from here, take the package and go forward. So having the two of us together, being able to work together and having a pretty good relationship, like in that respect, with the community, we were able to really quell a lot of the issues that were being raised, right? And I think it was very important for us to have that, and it made all the difference in the world moving forward. And honestly, by doing that and having that constant communication, constant training, we're now sitting like 10 months, almost 11 months into our rollout with like over 13,000 POs processed. We have, over 113 million in the system. So that training up front and that working together to really kind of combat some of the issues from our community really paid off for us and made it very successful.
So you've used the term roadshow a couple times. Can you tell me a little bit more, like what is a roadshow if I'm at the Seton Hall campus? Yeah,
so we would communicate with, say, advancement, right? And we'd reach out and say, hey, listen, we're able to come at whatever time you want us to, and we can train whatever staff was missing from, say, the last training, right? And we would go out and we'd perform those trainings. Sometimes it's only us training like one person or two people, Yeah, like no one shows up. But, other times a lot of people do, and they have good questions. And it's like we're able, I guess the real benefit of it is that they started using Unimarket, right? They were going through the system. And they started having questions like, Unimarket is a system, right? It's rigid to a point, but it's flexible, right? In certain ways, and their processes have to change. And it's that collaboration with the community. The two of us can come together and say, okay, we know you process it this way. If you make this little tweak, we can do this little tweak, and now everything flows, right? And you do that over and over and over again. And like one of the big things here, and I'm sure nobody else has this, but every department is a unicorn, right? They have their own way of doing things. Yeah. And nothing's going to work for them until it does, right? And that's what those roadshows do. Mm-hmm. You get to go there, present, work out ideas with them, and it usually works out.
Great.
Share my experience now. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's funny because like when I first came on board, I think I was probably one of James's last Unimarket training sessions. So I got to see what the end users were going to experience. I got to see the rec part, the PO part, the receiving, and yeah, kind of just like, yeah, they get invoiced and they get paid.
Yeah.
So it's like wrapped up. But I think once we really started our campaign, well, you already started the training campaign, but then there was like a different kind of like follow-up campaign after go live. It started off with town halls, and I think we did about 5. I kind of want to say we did like 5 different town halls, maybe spread out every 2 weeks or something like that for like a few months. And with these town halls, we were basically just asking the community, hey, come to these town hall sessions. We want to hear your questions. Now that we're go live, and hearing a lot of their questions actually helped us out because that's what James and I would kind of built FAQs off of, from those town halls. So it kind of just like helped in a sense. Some of their questions were difficult, and sometimes we couldn't answer them right then and there. I mean, we were fresh too with the system, but with Julie's support, we would have our check-ins with Julie, and we have our little agenda items to say, hey, Julie, we had these questions come up, like how do we kind of like tackle it, and then we kind of game plan off of there. So those town halls were I think essential to helping us kind of further develop Unimarket and enhance what we needed to change or implement some quick ad hoc changes. Then after the town halls, that's when we started doing, like James was saying, the road shows, the check-ins with the various departments. And it helped me because, I was brand new. I got to meet a lot of people, in person. I'm not a fan favorite, I was for sure, because they weren't really liking the system, and I'm just trying to make them use the system and explain how it works. And of course, they always had, certain criticisms from the functionality side and things like that, which, sorry, they have to go to Julie. I should route them to Julie. But no, like those check-ins were very helpful. They had some good questions, but then it also enabled us to kind of like engage with them like on a personal level. So like sometimes like it would just be kind of like a panel, we're just answering questions. Other times it'd be like I'm getting my laptop out because Susie has some questions. I'm going to sit right back down with her, pull up that requisition, and let's go over what your issue is. And we're just troubleshooting on the spot. So it kind of really helped, I guess, in that sense, versus the town halls were more just answering questions and kind of fielding that, and the other ones are just troubleshooting. So it was really good. Yeah.
I'll add one more thing. So yesterday, Ed was up on the panel. We were talking about how finance was kind of like off to the side, right? And the campus they didn't really engage that much with us. And at least that was the historical scenario. And by doing this, it gave procurement and accounts payable and finance as a whole a face, right? Now they knew. We walk across campus, good or bad. Sometimes it's, they know who you are, but, it's, but we have trees, so we run behind the trees. No, but they know who you are. They see you, they ask you questions. You're on your way to lunch, you're on your way to get a coffee or something, and they're like, oh, that you said something, and they start talking to you. And it's just furthering that communication, the recognition, working together with them. Like, they're more apt to ask the question before it becomes like an issue right, on the backside. So.
Absolutely.
Add a little bit more. So like on the part where it's like attacking it like just solo, like I definitely want to go at that whole campaign solo. Like some of those check-ins, like James was saying, like good or bad, like sometimes they were bad. So I didn't want to just get attacked all by myself, trust me. So it was kind of helpful. And I mean, I kind of like when they gave me a little breather and just asked procurement questions, like, oh, thank God. Like, yeah, ask James questions. I get a break, Like, don't ask invoice. And sometimes it was just straight invoice questions. It was like, oh my gosh, nobody has procurement questions? Like, James, want to step in here? So it did give us like a nice, back and forth little breaks here and there. But also like a support system, right? So if James was really trying to like hammer home like a certain, process, and these people were just, combative, I could jump in and kind of be like, well, guys, like from my point of view, add maybe something that's going to kind of help support James a little bit, and he's just not by himself. I think just having like that duo really helped for sure.
And, I'm sorry. Keep going back and forth. I'll just add another thing, though. It wasn't just the two of us, right, in a lot of these things, right? So we had a strong support team. So it was your people from your staff, my staff, right? We were able to be either in like present at the moment, or we would have the teams. It would be on a Teams event. So like, there, and you touched on something like you would be able to go right there, open your laptop and fix something. It was the same thing like for us on the procurement side. If there was something that wasn't being routed correctly or something wasn't set up correctly, right, we would have our teams there. So it was like, it was us, but it was accounts payable and procurement together, right, and the teams fixing things. So it actually did give the community also a feeling that, hey, they're supporting us now, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. Sorry.
Well, no, I just wanted to tag off that a little bit to say that one of the great things about Unimarket and the collaboration that they build and everything else is we were sitting down to discuss this panel and to formulate our thoughts and everything, and they were talking about what they did. It was just like, to me, it's like, oh, even though we have a great relationship in what we work and what we do on a daily basis, I forgot about the training aspect. I didn't bring them into the room. So then, and I don't know if it's an ego thing or what it is, initially, because I was the training person, I became the knowledge person for all of it. But I don't have all that knowledge. Part of the knowledge is sitting upstairs. And so it's like, oh, I need to, when we start doing retrainings, if we do road shows, whatever we do, I need to invite the other half of the collaboration that we have at the university to the table. So when people ask questions, they're getting that subject matter expert and not just my knowledge of how to push it through the system. I mean, I have pretty decent knowledge of what they do, but I don't know all of it. And so it was a really aha moment when we all started discussing it, like, oh, I missed a step.
I think my takeaway is going to be we need to do some of these road shows, so be ready. I think, because from being on the AP finance side is I have more, what we can do within our ERP system. And so by us working together, and hearing these problems together, they can tackle it from one way, but then I can also say, hey, we can do it this way. Like, this needs to be approved, but it also needs to go to this GL. Okay, well, let's build in a switching table for prepaids, where it'll go to that department, but yet I don't want a prepaid for every single department. And so it's like, okay, well, how about we have it switch this way so it'll go into our general prepaid account for each one of our schools. And, it's just that collaboration of being able to work together and come at it from both sides of it. And just having a seat at the table because between us, we can usually solve a lot of things, everything.
So the impact for this, for me, is it seems like you guys have done a great job of sort of getting it on your campus and putting a face and a service to it so that people know they can sort of rely on you. A wise procurement person actually once told me, they said, look, we can either be the procurement police and have everyone hate us, or we can be a service department. We want to deliver service to the campus. And so getting out there and building those relationships with your departments and doing those trainings, it's clear you guys are doing that work in a way that's going to positively affect your end users. So, okay, so I've got a new topic here. So Corey, we're going to start with you. I want you to just imagine for a moment that this partnership that you had with Steph, it didn't exist, right? You don't have it. You're in two departments not communicating with each other. What do you think the immediate effect would be? What's the first thing that would happen? And how do you think downstream it would really affect ATSU as a campus and as an organization?
Wow. Well, initially, the first thing that comes to mind for me is possibly the issue we would have with relationships with our vendors. Because if we don't know payment flows, you can always go into Unimarket and see if a check's been cut and do some other stuff, but if you've got a supplier reaching out or if you get a department reaching out or whatever saying, well, they're saying that you cut this check, but they're saying they never got the check. And you're also over the mailroom, so did you mail the check? I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure we mailed the check. But not having that interaction, not being able to reach out to them to say, I think there would be a lot of inconsistencies in dealing with vendors because they're going to get different messages from each group. Because then if they reached out to AP's just going to, more than likely, if there was no relationships, going to say, hey, I cut the check, talk to them. So if there's not, It is really difficult for me coming from a customer service area in my life that on all my jobs over the, however many years, 40 years I've been in business, but that you wouldn't have some kind of collaboration. I can't imagine not being able to speak with someone and just want to hand it off. I can't. It really is difficult for me to think of how inefficient it would be just to say, well, that's not my job, go talk to them. And then the cyclical nature that could cause, because then that individual could get it and say, I really don't want to deal with it, so that's not my job either, so talk to them again. So I think that would be the real struggle I would see, and how inefficient that would, and the stress it would cause then on the end users, the products, offerings, and everything, and then able to, because of all that, to support what your actual end product is, which is your student. You're trying to put a student, that's your product, out in the workforce, and what a struggle that would be if you had all that inconsistency.
Yeah, great. So James, I'm going to pick on you now and sort of ask you the same question, right? So if you didn't have this relationship with Bobby and you weren't communicating, how would that affect the Seton Hall campus?
Yeah. So I would say it's two things, and one of them I'll start with is continuous improvement, right, across the campus and within our system. We talked about it a lot, actually, over the last couple of days, and it's like, you keep hearing that continuous improvement, but that it works when you identify something or somebody else identifies it to you, right? And not having that communication, like we could set up procurement the perfect way that we think it's supposed to be run, right? And it might be a complete failure for you, right, when the package gets to you to do the invoicing side. And not a complete failure, but you would have errors and issues, right? But if there wasn't that back and forth, we wouldn't be privy to it that much, right? And it would hinder that continuous improvement process where we're trying to identify issues that can streamline your work, because everything that happens that gets to you, we're upstream from it, right? So, and that would lead into the next issue that I would say is the FTEs at the university. Like that's something that's I think on everybody's radar right now, right? And if we cannot continuously improve the process for your team, right, from our standpoint, then what does that mean for full-time, right, employees that you're getting inundated with doing processing errors instead of processing invoices, right? Constant communication back or issues from the community that really start from the procurement side, right? They either didn't put it in right, or we're not identifying the problem early enough for you. So I think those are the two things that I would see. It's the continuous improvement that leads into the FTEs and the adequate usage of them at the university.
I think another area is if we're not paying stuff in a timely manner and AP isn't, doing that piece, then we're not going to support Corey's side whenever he wants to go and sit down with vendors and negotiate, better things. And he's going to go, okay, well, what can we do here? And they go, you're not paying your stuff on time. We're not going to update anything. Well, okay, that's why, being able to work together and make sure that all the pieces are running smoothly the way that they need to allows those better relationships then also with vendors whenever it comes time for that.
Yeah, great. So we're getting a lot of really great examples today of just the way your teams are collaborating and what that looks like in practice. So thank you guys for sharing all these great stories. So let's sort of wrap up with sort of the heart of this whole conversation, which is when working together, what do you think's the core ingredient of this relationship between the two departments? And for maybe people in the room who are in organizations where these departments are not working together as tightly, what's the secret sauce, or what's the advice that you might give them to try to build that relationship to collaborate better between these departments?
That's a good question. I think mutual respect for sure is a key ingredient. when I first came on board, I had told James that I was a Marine veteran. So I told him there was a famous general, 4-star general, his previous Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, and he said, "Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet." And after he knew that, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna respect this guy, of course." So he didn't want to double cross me. No, but true story. True story. But no, so like we genuinely want to have respect for each other and support each other. I mean, I have his back. Sometimes they make some wild calls last minute, and I get my head cut off for it. But I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna support him anyways, even though he didn't give me a heads up. No, I'm just kidding. So just trying to be supportive, trying to just have that mutual respect. I think for me, it was built off my experience, and I'll try to keep it a little short here. It was built off my experience because like my previous employer, like we didn't start off like my procurement division, we didn't have the best relationship with accounts payable and procurement, and so just really going through some of those challenges, I knew what I didn't want, right? It was just chaos, it was mess, it was just not aligned, it's just inefficient, it wasn't great for anybody, and I knew when I started at Seton Hall, I didn't want that kind of relationship. I mean, it got better at my previous employer, but it took some time. There was definitely like some scars and bandages, some wounds there, but over here I wanted to just start fresh and have a collaborative, working relationship with procurement. I know how much, I need to work with them because they're the beginning of my process. I'm the very end of it. So having that mutual respect, I think, is a key ingredient for sure.
I'd just tag off of that and say the same thing. I mean, that respect for that department and hopefully the other direction. As I mentioned before, for me, I came from a customer service aspect, so you always want to be able to deliver a successful product. And since we're in finance, part of that product is, getting things procured, getting it for the departments, and then also, delivering the other aspect of that, which is to pay your suppliers. You build that relationship. So there's a lot of little cones of relationship building that go on, and maybe it's the influencer in me that wants to see those things succeed. So I've always wanted to strive to build that particular relationship in order for that to happen. And, I just see that, really early on in my career at the university, we were paper-based. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of that conflict between the two departments, not conflict, but struggle, because they had their processes that they were doing, and you might try and pass some stuff off and think that's where it was supposed to go, and they would come walking back downstairs with a packet of stuff and say, "No, this is yours." And it's kind of like, okay. So, and along that process of improving and getting to electronic and doing some other things, it's just like, we need to make sure we're working together and not against each other.
Yeah. So we could probably talk all day, but I'm getting the flag that we're out of time. So, before we break for lunch, let's just give a round of applause for our panelists.
All right, so thank you. We'll let you guys get back to your tables.
Great job, guys.
Yeah, a lot of good messages there. We're not going to break for lunch just yet.
My bad.
Yeah, you're bad. So we are going to break for lunch, but before we do that, I'm going to invite one of my favorite people in the world, Tony from Finexio, up. So Finexio, I've mentioned them a couple times. Yesterday and today, so they're a sponsor of our event today, but they're also a really important partner of Unimarket. So most of you are aware that we have a product called Unimarket Payments, which basically just allows us to, receive a file from you when you do your payment run and handle everything from there, right? So that includes printing and mailing your checks. That includes sending ACH payments. That includes sending virtual card payments. That includes converting check suppliers off of check and onto virtual card and ACH. We've been working hard at introducing this into our client base. We have about 20% of our clients now using the Unimarket Payments product. And I think I mentioned yesterday that on average, those customers are receiving just around a little over $40,000 a year in cash rebates for the spend that moves off of check and onto virtual card. Again, Finexio is our partner to do this. They're the product is powered by Finexio. So I'm going to ask Tony to come up and just introduce herself and tell you a little bit about Finexio. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was my first time finding out I'm one of your favorite people. Love that for me. I can't unsee the fern joke at this point anymore. That was really funny. So yeah, my name is Tony. I'm the VP of Account Management at Finexio. Started about 5 years ago with the company, and it's been quite the ride. Thank you to Unimarket for having us here. I'm just actually going to sit down so it can be a little bit more casual. We've heard in the last day or so that procurement leaders and finance organizations are really looking to do more with less, more efficiency, better visibility, better supplier satisfaction, stronger controls in your process. And that's really why we, came to the conference. At Finexio, we help modernize those AP processes, and we do that through what we call AP payments as a service. So what that means really is that it's a fully managed payment solution, not just technology. So we design that to really simplify and optimize the entire workflow. I do have some slides here. So, Finexio was founded by payments industry veterans. I think some of you met our CEO yesterday, Ernest Rolfson. He's also the founder of the company as well. And he founded us based off a really simple belief that the AP teams deserve better than fragmented processes. And since then, we've partnered with hundreds of finance organizations and leading platforms like Unimarket to be able to help customers move away from really outdated processes to more modern AP processes. So I think what makes our model different from others is that it's not just about technology, it's also about supplier enablement, payment operations, revenue optimization, and fraud protection, which is a growing concern of a lot of finance organizations today. So instead of just giving you software and a software guide and saying, here you go, figure it out, we help deliver business outcomes for the office of the CFO. And that's especially important because there was some discussion yesterday about procurement kind of being something that's in a silo or something that's not well understood across the organization. AP lives in that same bubble sometimes. And they impact more than just being able to send the payments out. They impact working capital, they impact supplier satisfaction, internal efficiency, and really financial visibility to CFOs as well. So, if we look at where AP has been versus where it's going, historically payments were really manual, paper checks, bank portals, multiple approval workflows, really error-prone processes and limited reporting visibility as well. And today organizations really need something that's wildly different. They need payments that are digital, that are fast, and secure, which is a very fine balance to strike between fast and secure. Easy for suppliers to adopt because we know they can be a bit stubborn in moving from what they're used to something different that's not known to them. And really most importantly, and what we hear most from AP teams is integrated into their existing workflows so that they don't have to fundamentally change their processes to adopt more efficiency. And they need all of that while navigating economic pressure, staffing constraints, and rising fraud risk, where they're expected to not only make the payments, but make sure that they get to the right supplier who is who they say they are. And that's why modern AP is no longer a nice to have, but it's definitely a strategic priority for CFOs at this point. So what does AP payments as a service mean? It means that at Finexio, we help manage and actually optimize the full payment lifecycle. And we focus on 3 really key areas, which is optimization, monetization, and security. So when it comes to optimization, we intelligently, with AI, route payments to the right payment method. We help maximize the rebate opportunity through virtual card adoption. And security. So we protect the payments with screening on transactions and controls and other monitoring components of our system. So what that means for your team is less time chasing payments, answering supplier questions and phone calls on where is my payment, when is it going to get to me, I'm going to send a charge back to you, and more time focused on strategic work. So it's not about replacing the AP team, but actually elevating the function to be all that it can be. And really, the impact shows up for us in 4 ways. It prevents fraud. So electronic payments reduce the check fraud exposure and improves controls for the organization. It saves time, so less manual work, fewer exceptions, fewer supplier payment calls. We manage all of the check and ACH exceptions as well as virtual card for our customers. So no time spent on big changes that the supplier never told you about. Those all come to us. Our system monitors them accordingly and reacts in real time. We also reduce costs, so we eliminate those hidden costs tied to paper, labor, rework, starting over again, and inefficient processes, and also giving visibility and control. So we have a ton of data in our system to help the finance teams understand their overall health and metrics as it relates to running their payments and their supplier adoption. So you gain insight to that payment status, methods, and the spend activity related to. So now you go from a super paper process to now seeing your full supplier network through our lens. And ultimately, for many organizations, AP has traditionally been viewed as a cost center. To us, we think modernizing payments actually can change that and shifts society pretty significantly. So this is where the conversation gets really interesting. I actually started in our supplier enablement function where we help operate as the back-end portion of the AP function. Reaching out to suppliers and calling them to get them to adopt electronic payments, which the idea sounds cheap, but the operation's quite expensive. And it does require some sales skills to convince your suppliers to take those payment methods, believe it or not. But when organizations increase electronic payments, especially with virtual card, they often reduce operational costs and they also generate new revenue streams, which is what Darren was mentioning earlier. So instead of payments being an expense to manage, they actually become a lever for efficiency and financial return for your organization. And that's a really meaningful shift for CFOs and finance leaders who are really looking for ways to create value without adding more headcount, which, in this modern time, everyone is really focused on how to get the staff that you have more productive and spending less time doing things that either AI can do or that a system can do for you. But of course, technology does not solve payments alone. One of the biggest reasons payment initiatives stall, in my experience, is due to supplier adoption. That's why Finexio provides dedicated supplier enablement. We have US-based reps that reach out to suppliers to have them enroll in electronic payments. And we work directly with suppliers to help drive that adoption and ongoing optimization. So it's not a one-time campaign that we do when a customer onboards. It's something we do ongoing through check analysis and AI predictive models. And all of that includes supplier outreach, education to both you as a customer and to the suppliers on the phone. We do develop campaign strategy based off of your data. And then also just continuous engagement and payment method optimization with those suppliers. So if we can't get them the first time, we'll keep trying until they accept. But ultimately, the best payment strategy only works if the suppliers adopt, so that's really critical to the entire function. When customers partner with Unimarket and Finexio, ultimately, they've gained more than just simply automation. They gain supplier data visibility, stronger fraud controls, which is a major concern, less manual effort, and improved supplier experience. So having them have experts be able to educate them through the onboarding process and why we ask for certain information to enroll them on ACH or to do bank changes, and greater long-term payment flexibility. So that really has measurable impact to the organization. So it's really about creating a smarter, more scalable AP function. so that your team can focus more on the things that drive the business forward. I won't take you too long so you can get to lunch, but thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.